summary of the book of Job in the Bible. In the Bible, there are 3 books known as the wisdom literature: Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job. Each of these books offers profound insights into life, justice, and God's wisdom. The Book of Proverbs, Wisdom and Justice. Proverbs teaches that God is wise and just. He has ordered the world so that the righteous are rewarded and the wicked are punished. In other words, life is fair and everyone gets what they deserve. 2. The Book of Ecclesiastes, Injustice and the Unpredictability of Life. However, Ecclesiastes presents a different view. It shows that life is not always fair. The righteous do not always prosper, and the wicked do not always face consequences. The world is full of unpredictability and injustice, like smoke that we cannot grasp. This raises a significant question: is God really wise and just? 3. The Book of Job, the debate over suffering. This question is explored in the Book of Job. The story begins with a strange scene in heaven where God is surrounded by the sons of God, angelic beings, who come to present themselves before him. God points out Job, a righteous man, as an example of virtue. But then one of the heavenly beings, named Satan, challenges God's view of Job. 4. Satan and the test of Job. In the Bible, Satan is not depicted as a devil, but as a title, meaning the accuser or the adversary. Satan questions whether Job truly loves God, or if he is just a righteous man because of the blessings God has given him. Satan proposes that if God were to remove those blessings, Job's true loyalty would be revealed. God agrees to this challenge and allows Satan to test Job by taking away everything he holds dear. Job loses his wealth, health, and family. Despite all this, Job continues to praise God, at least in the first 2 chapters. 5. Job's suffering and his reaction. However, as Job's suffering deepens, he can no longer hide his despair. In chapter 3, Job delivers a long lament, cursing the day of his birth. His sorrow is overwhelming, and he questions the meaning of his existence. 6. Job's friends arrive. Job's 3 friends come to visit, intending to comfort him. However, instead of offering consolation, they begin to argue that Job must have done something terribly wrong to deserve such suffering. After all, they believe that God is just and that the world operates according to divine justice. Therefore, Job must be suffering because of some hidden sin. For the next 34 chapters, Job and his friends engage in a dense dialogue filled with theological debates and poetic speeches. The friends keep suggesting possible sins that Job might have committed, while Job defends his innocence. 7. Job's emotional struggle. Throughout these exchanges, Job experiences a range of emotions. At times he expresses confidence in God's wisdom and justice, but at other moments he doubts God's goodness. Job even accuses God of being unfair, reckless, and corrupt. He cannot understand why he is suffering. 8. Job demands an explanation from God. Finally, Job demands that God explain himself. He wants God to come and defend his actions, and God does respond, but not in the way Job expects. Instead of offering a direct explanation or addressing Satan's challenge, God appears in a storm and takes Job on a virtual tour of the universe. 9. God's revelation of the universe. God shows Job the vastness and complexity of the world he has created. He asks Job if he is capable of understanding or managing such a grand creation, even for a day. God points out the many details of the universe that Job has never noticed, things Job cannot comprehend, but that God knows intimately. God also reveals the majesty of certain creatures, like two great beasts that are dangerous but part of the good world he created. These creatures, despite their power, are not evil but integral parts of God's creation. 10. God's wisdom and Job's humility. God does not give Job a direct answer to his suffering, but he shows Job that his wisdom is far beyond human understanding. Job could not possibly grasp the complexity of God's plans, nor could he understand the vast intricacies of the universe. Job's request for an explanation seems absurd in light of the grandness of God's wisdom. 11. The conclusion of Job's story. At the end of the book, Job's perspective changes. He no longer demands an explanation or seeks to understand everything. Instead, Job humbly accepts that he is not capable of comprehending God's wisdom and sovereignty. He learns to trust God, even without knowing the reasons for his suffering. God restores everything Job lost, giving him double what he had before. However, this is not a reward for passing a test, nor is Job's suffering a punishment. The point of the book is that Job's suffering was never a punishment, and his restoration is not a reward. It is a gift from God, whose wisdom Job now trusts. 12. The message of the Book of Job. The Book of Job teaches us that while we may never understand why we suffer, we can learn to trust in God's infinite wisdom. The world is full of mysteries and hardships that we cannot explain. But like Job, we can choose to live in humility and trust in God's justice and wisdom. Conclusion. The Book of Job is not just a story about suffering and hardship. It is a profound lesson in humility, trust, and the limitless wisdom of God. While we may never fully comprehend the reasons behind our suffering, we can find peace in the knowledge that God, in his infinite wisdom, is always in control, even when we cannot see the whole picture.